let's talk about self-care. What is your journey with self-care, Ben? Let's start there, because I think that's a good place to start, knowing where you were early in your life and what you were encountering.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love this topic. So to me, it's a lifestyle, and it's a conscious choice.
Yeah.
That we have to make, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is. And it is a choice. And I like that you said choice in that, because I think it changes the way we look at it. It goes from I have to I get to. And I think even just recognizing that difference in choice and the words you use is important.
Yeah, right. It's like, on so many levels, we're looking at self-care mentally, emotionally, with relationships, right? Spiritually, physically. And it's recognizing that you are worth loving yourself. It's loving yourself, right?
Yes, it is. And it starts there, because we prioritize the things that we value and love. And if we don't have that core of that, it's very difficult to make it a priority. And I would, that's why I'm so passionate about the embracing layers piece. As the embracing layers piece encompasses that seeing that value, because we will give our time to what we value.
Yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, I mean, self-care, let's just say for me, starts first thing in the morning. And that has to be, for me, a quiet time for connection. And that's, we get one day, we have this day, right? And so starting there, filling up my cup, is where I start. Yeah. So that quiet time is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And making that time for yourself. And I think that there's so much power in quieting your mind, quieting your body, your spirit. So it can be, you fill it and you've got space to fill. I mean, you've created capacity, and it's so much about, and how you show up in the day changes when you fill your cup. When you've created that capacity, it changes how you're able to show up for yourself and others.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And, it's just like, we all need reminders. I need reminders. For me, it's, knowing who I am in Christ, right? It's knowing that and owning that and being filled up with that spirit, right?
Right.
That's,
Yeah. 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 And then and then you're able to share, all those parts of you with others, and I think that, but it doesn't, sometimes I think we think self-care is selfish. So I'm like, no, what are you going to give from if you don't take care of yourself? That's how martyr syndromes come into play, is when we're trying to give from a place that we don't have anything to give from. And so this interrupts that and makes it possible. So talk to me about the emotional health, physical health connection. I think that's probably something you can speak to. I know you started dealing with pain earlier in your life than probably you would have expected to. And so just the impact that had on you emotionally and mentally. But talk to me about that connection for you and how it's played out in your life.
Okay. So today, I would say that emotionally, when we slow down and we actually take care of ourselves physically and listen to our bodies, then we can connect with them better. Our mind is not separate from our body, right?
Yes.
And, and so like, for example, this is like let's just take one of the pillars I teach, which would be, let's work on our stretching, right? If we slow down and we breathe and we begin to know our bodies, where we're holding tension, it can be an amazing outlet for us, right?
Yeah.
And same with other things like, fascia release or, things like that. So it's like, that's one way. Listening to our body, slowing down, it has been key for me, because for so long I didn't, and I pushed, and that didn't serve me. I think like early on in my life too, because I was a natural born mover, I craved that natural freedom of movement, which is powerful, right?
It is. It is. It is.
Yeah.
It is when it's working well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like when it's not working well, we have to figure out, well, what can I do that is working? And so for me, it was like, well, I can't use my feet. So, and I was a dancer. So like, let's get together and see, like, how can I find that freedom of movement and open up doors? Because there's always a way, knowing that we can do that and that there are options no matter what's going on with our body. For me, it was initially the feet, could be back, could be hips, knees. I experienced all that. But knowing that we still can benefit from the freedom of movement, but do the things I consider self-care, the things that are going to sustain that movement. Because we can, if we're not doing the things that are going to help our body to move, then what happens is when we begin to move, especially as we get older, I happen to maybe be blessed with these things at a young age, right?
Yeah.
But, as we get older, it's like we've got to be more proactive about preventing injury. And when we have discomforts, right, we've got to be listening for those things. And then, I'm just like really grateful that I was, dealt that hand early, because I know like, okay, what do we need to do and what not to do and so forth. So I'm babbling on, but did that help answer your question?
Absolutely. There's a lot of important things. I mean, I think it can be really, if you've been a dancer, a gymnast, an athlete of any kind. I was a runner and I blew up all the tendons in my foot my freshman year of college. And that, literally like just my foot ruptured. It was not good. It was very painful. It changed a lot of things for me, but it's also like, I've been used to just moving this certain way since I was 12 years old. All of a sudden there was this disruption in it. And then again, healed those parts. We made some decisions, but then again, I hit early 40s and my hips were like, I don't think so anymore. This pounding of the pavement is not going to work for me any longer. So happy to make those adjustments too, and because at first it's like, what am I going to do now? This is how I work out what's going on in my head. This is how I release that tension from my body, and realizing there's other ways to do that. I think can have a real impact on you mentally and emotionally, but it can be really encouraging. Like, wait a minute, there's a different way I can do this, and being open to that. Like, yes, you're used to that way. Yes, that's the way that has been beneficial to you at this point, but your body is telling you something different. And you said something too, it's so important to listen to our bodies. And, and so many times we wait till we've hit that wall until we listen. And then it's like, and then we're in a heap of trouble because we're like, oh, we didn't pay attention to the signals, and we get mad at our bodies. And we're like, wait a minute, our body's been trying to tell us this needs to be dealt with for a while now. So slowing down to do that. But you say something so important, so many things. It's called the Complete WellBody Method, which I love the title because it's complete and it's the whole body. It's a holistic approach. It's based, and it's not based on appearance. It's based on how you want to feel. And I think that is so powerful for our emotional and mental health when we approach it that way. So talk to me about how you got to that approach, like you knew that was the approach you needed to take.
Yeah. So it didn't happen overnight. My goodness, I've been doing this for 26 years. Right. And so at a point in my life and, first of all, going back, I was real proactive about finding solutions after I had that issue with dancing. Right. And so I studied this stuff, I got the degrees. I studied so many things, and, it was my journey along the way that led me here. So, it was kind of like after having a low point in my life and a spiritual low point, as well as having the opportunity to have some back-to-back car wrecks, messing, cervical spine up. Because I'm stubborn. I'm telling you that, God was like, this is, like we all get that message somehow. And so that afforded the opportunity for me to actually begin to to understand what I would call is unexercising, where we're focusing on our breathing. We're learning to connect to our bodies. We're building a foundation for our bodies in a different way. And it was over like a span of like 15 to 16 years. I was able to like be really blessed by working with people coming into my world, a lot of them at the Duke Medical Center that, just really, were in that age range where they wanted injury prevention. They had discomforts going on in their body.
Sure.
So it was just like evolved, and it's just as much an art as it is a science. Right. And so I've found that there's just not one thing that we need. And this has just been my experience. And I was able to kind of put all the things that we do need together from a physical standpoint and movement standpoint. And, let's look at this as a lifestyle. This is not, quick fix, it's not just, I don't even use the word fitness, it's more than that. It's, learning how we put this into our lives, into our days. And, with the Complete WellBody Method, there's ways to do that at your home. I work with a lot of people that travel or they're retired. They don't want to be running around to different places. So excited to be able to put it all in one place for people to be able to do that. Right.
Yeah.
And that's like exciting to like empower people with these tools, because it's about the journey and building these lifelong habits. And that's really what I'm excited to see. So,
yeah. And it is a lifestyle thing. It's not these quick fix, bad things. And these are tools that you carry with you wherever you go. I mean, that ability to be able to do it from anywhere, makes it accessible. You don't have to get to these gyms, that place, that apparatus. You've got all these different tools, and they also different tools serve you in different ways, depending on the day, depending on how you're feeling, where your body's at, where your emotions are at. So it's a full toolbox of things and not just one. And it addresses all parts of our being, not just the physical, which is so powerful. Talk to me about confidently setting boundaries, healthy boundaries. What does that look like for you?
Well, I mean, that's a form of self-care, right? And that is, it's like and honestly, I think that's the most important form of self-care for me, because they need to be firmly in place. When they're not, then it's hard. There's not that clearness set up. And so that means a lot of times having to be firm, and hold to that, whether it's with our time, boundaries with our time, for example, right? Or boundaries with our business, in so many ways, like, right. It's hard, right? Boundaries with family, with our kids, our spouse, that is a form of self-care. So like knowing what you want your boundaries to be, and then filtering them in so that other people, you communicate that clearly with other people. And that's where it is. And so when they're broken, there are repercussions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just to know, it's like, listen, I've got to do this for my own health. I got to do this for my well-being. And so I'm communicating this, I'm being clear, but just know that if this is not something you're going to abide by, it may need less opportunity to work with me or communication with me, whatever it is it may be. And you can be clear and kind and still be firm. And I think that's sometimes where women get tripped up. They're afraid of not being nice, quote unquote. It's like, no, I mean, you got to be nice to yourself first. And then if you're nice to yourself, you're going to feel better. You're going to be better equipped to be nice to other people. Because usually when you're not nice to other people, you haven't been being nice enough to yourself and taking care of yourself. And so you get some crabby form of you that hasn't been setting healthy boundaries, that hasn't been prioritizing self-care. So I think, reframing the way we think about that too. How we can support ourselves and other women in living unapologetically. Your work is a great example of this, and how you do it, and how you've empowered yourself in living unapologetically in this form and in this way, and how you go about things, and then just what you make available. But talk to me about that journey for you.
Yeah. So, forming a community, which is the goal, so that we can support each other in those endeavors, I think is key. Having that support around, knowing that we are so much alike, in so many ways. And so like, I'm a woman, I understand women better. I communicate to them better. That's just it. So, I mean, enough said.
Yeah. And I think when you show up that way for other women, it invites them in. They want to show up that way too. It's a contagious thing when we show up living unapologetically, when we invite other women to it. It's like, oh, wait a minute, we are better together. We are better as a unit.
Yeah.
Rooting each other on, supporting each other. This is not a scarcity mindset. There is room for all of us. And I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, exactly. I know we don't need, there's so much out there in the world that exists in forms of like competition and this and comparison, so much toxic comparison.
Yes.
Yeah. That's not where it's at. Let's honor us as individuals,
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Love that. Yeah. The comparison game is poison. Step away from that. That is not empowering for you or for anybody else. So absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. The importance of setting and coming back to your why and your values in everything you do. This is a very important piece for you. You feel very strongly about this. It plays a big role in your life. So talk to me about that.
Well, yeah, there's just one answer, and that is God. More specifically, Jesus. So walking personally with that is just key. So coming back to the truth would be coming back to scripture, and knowing who I am in Christ, and so forth. So yeah, it's just really simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And that sets your framework for where you go from there and where you give your time. Does it align with that? Does it align with my values that I have around that? And I think that helps, and which then helps you to set your boundaries and helps you to know, what expectations to live out of. I mean, it's so, I think, all encompassing when you have a strong sense of your values and your why. So important. Thank you for that. Living out of your own expectations versus others. I'm sure, so you were a dancer, and then that had to change. So that probably came with a certain set of expectations. And then you go into the way you approach this movement, this Complete WellBody Method, that, there's people have different sets of expectations about what it looks like to take care of our bodies, and being able to be like, no, this is what works for me. And this is how I've aligned that. And this is how I know it will work for other people too. So talk to me about your expectations journey, and that getting to that space of where you very clearly live out of your own expectations that you've set for yourself based on your values and what you believe. But talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think making them realistic and achievable for where we're at. And that could even be as small as bringing them down to the day. I mean, just depending on where we are. And so, in the time of life or season that we're in. So setting that framework, right? So, realizing how much we have to give goes back to the boundary of how we want to spend our time. So for me, I prioritize family. I have kids, and that's a huge priority. And so then I also have a business. And so making that work into that realm, but setting your boundaries there. Not easy all the time.
No,
right? We learn as we go.
We do. We do.
And expectations that, I don't like the word perfect. I don't want to use that word. And because we have, there's no such thing.
Right.
There's only one form of perfection, and giving yourself grace.
Yes.
Giving myself grace that it's okay.
Yes.
Acknowledging what I am doing is very helpful.
Yeah.
Because, I think that in the past, I know early on we had these expectations like, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to be a dancer. Well, those things don't always hold up.
Right.
So we have to navigate. We've got to shift. And so, what's realistic for us now?
Right. And being present now. I like that you specify that, and the fact that we have to shift. There are unexpected things that are going to come up in life. We are going to go through different seasons that we're going to show up differently. They're going to require different ways for us to be. And so holding that space for that, being aware of that, and giving ourselves grace as we transition. Because sometimes those transitions are brought upon us, but we don't always choose those transitions. So giving ourselves grace in that process as we make that shift, as we adjust our expectations, see where we are now, and be confident in those and being willing, I think, to communicate those as well as when we're communicating our boundaries and going back to those values and like, okay, wait a minute. I'm being asked this, and you'll feel it in your body when you're out of alignment. Like, you'll know, like, there will be an unease within you. Would you say that's been your experience too?
Yeah, 100%. And then when you have that awareness, you kind of say, what's going on here?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you step back, makes you take a look. It's like, okay, because I think also too, when it comes to expectations and this good work you're doing, that sometimes a good thing doesn't mean it's a good thing for you. Like, you might be brought an opportunity that is quote unquote good, but if it's not in alignment with the time that you need with your family, that what you've set aside for your business, what you've set aside for your faith space, you're just caring for yourself, then that may not be for you, and that's okay. I think, and that's again where that grace piece comes in.
Yeah. And then knowing when to push and when to back off, because as a person like myself, I am a go-getter, a doer. I do this stuff for a reason because by nature, I'm type A, right? Yeah. Want to push. So really having to reframe things and know, like, now may not be the time.
Yes. And that's okay.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And just honoring that, I think, is important too.
I understand. I'm a pusher too. And I will tend to, like, when I stop and I look at, I'm like, am I trying to take control of this situation to make it quote unquote work for me? Or is this actually coming naturally out of the abundance and a time that I have to give, and being honest about that? Because I've had to ask myself that question even the last couple of weeks with a lot of projects that I'm balancing. I was trying to control a narrative or a scenario, and I had several conversations last week as I was recording with people that were reminders of telling me, and I was like, I needed those conversations this week. Those conversations were in place for a reason. They were indicators to let me know that I needed to check myself, even as I was having conversations with other people.
Yeah. I mean, that is the biggest personal struggle for me is surrendering control.
Yes.
Because, when I'm in control, things are like not good. I mean, I'm pushing, I'm taking on more than I need to. When I'm living in the present moment in the day, and go back to those, expectations, what's realistic, what's achievable.
Yeah.
By far, I got to cut out like 50%.
I know.
Like the craziness of like,
Yeah.
I mean, so let's back off, but that's very hard, right? So now we get challenged in the level of having patience.
Yes.
We've got to go back, being patient, turning it over. You're not in control.
Yeah.
Just do what you can.
Right.
That surrender. It's hard. It's easier said than done.
It is. It sounds great, but it's something to constantly be aware of. Absolutely. No, so important. So important. And so sometimes the expectations aren't just of other people. It's like, it's what you talked about earlier, being realistic. I'm like, I need to realign my expectations of myself. I've got to stop here. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's where it starts for me too. Because then what happens is I'm now placing those same expectations on you, and you. And how fair is that? And so I've got to be checking myself, especially if you have employees or people working to you. I mean, it's hard, and it's a learning curve, right?
It is.
Do the best we can.
We absolutely do. So always coming back to that grace piece. It's like, okay, I'm going to adjust from here, but I'm not going to beat myself up for how I got there.
No, that's right. That's right.
Very good. Okay, so good. Accepting the layered aspects of ourselves, all those things in our lives that are a part of who we are. Talk to me about your layers journey.
Well, that's the hardest part.
It really is.
I mean, it's the hardest part, and I'm in it, and I'm even in it right now, big time. And it's like, I love the light. I love being filled up with the Holy Spirit, but that's not Cari. There's darkness. There's things that, we got to look at that aren't pleasurable. Parts of myself that I don't really want you to know about.
Sure. Yeah. No, we all have it. We all have it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the work. And working through that, because that makes us grow. It makes me grow because we're all human. And even though we may, we can turn that feeling of like, we want to carry it. We want to attach a level of, let's just say, shame to it. Right. So, but if we can remove the aspect of shame and guilt, and we can go deeper and we can love ourselves enough to know why.
Yes.
Right. I think that's where it's out. Like, why is this occurring? Why am I extremely jealous of this person? Why am I having this anger? Why am I feeling so freaking insecure in this scenario? What's really going on there? Where have I been threatened? What part of my security or, what's going on? So like that diving deeper is where the work is done. That really is work, and it's the most important work there is.
Absolutely. I'm nodding my head vigorously because it is. It's getting to that why. Why is this happening? What is this connected to? What needs to be healed, addressed, felt, processed, all those things. That is the key every single time when those things come up. Thank you so much for that. So good. So good. And until you do that, you're going to struggle with embrace. And there's always going to be layers that unfold as we go through seasons. So we also have to be accepting of the fact that we are ongoing, evolving, growing throughout our whole lives. So in living out feel, finding empowerment, embracing layers, how has this affected your relationship with yourself as well as your relationship with other people?
Yeah. So like we talked about already, starting with self is where it is. And that then translates to all my other relationships. So the relationship that I have with Cari, turning it into that love, loving myself. That's where we go to the self-care, understanding. So like, for example, we talked about when those aspects of control, or it can be fear or being frantic, come in, not placing judgment or beating myself up, acknowledging that, but also making the choice that I don't have to stay there.
Right.
Yes. And I think that, I know I'm talking a lot about the self, but, when we have that awareness about ourselves, then we're more aware of how we're interacting with other people.
Absolutely.
So like, if we want to talk about emotional intelligence, right? That's where it is. Like if I'm aware of my own emotions, and then I can be more aware of what's going on with you. Oh, well, there might be some aspect of fear that you're experiencing or whatever it might be, and have a greater level of compassion, which, getting to that, heart place, which you talk about, that's really where it's at. It's kind of like heart surgery.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's emotional heart surgery.
Numerous surgeries on that very important part of us, the most important part of us. And that's really where I want to show up. And like we talk about, sometimes we'll do better than others. Today's off day for me. I'm not feeling 100%. I'm not feeling, and that's okay. I'm still showing up.
Yeah.
And I'm acknowledging this is where I'm at today. And that's not going to possibly be tomorrow, but it's okay. I'm honestly feeling really, really terrible today, but I'm still here.
Right. Well, and that just that awareness. And also it alerts you to what your capacity is for that day. So it's like, if you sit down and take the time to be aware of where you are each day, then it informs, okay, I've got this on my schedule. I might need to prepare differently. I might need to, given where my energy level is, or maybe I need to change that appointment, or, just be that awareness. And then you're able to show up with what the capacity is in an honest, authentic way that is not going to be hurtful to the person you're interacting with as well. So much power in that.
Yeah. Thank you. Our conversation's been healing already for me.
Yeah, me too. It's so good to talk with. Like, yes. And that's what the kinds of things we do. That's how we show up unapologetic. That's how we show up supporting each other unapologetically.
Yes.
It's exactly that there. Thank you so much for that. We are down to the rapid fire. Name 5 activities that nourish you.
Okay, rapidly. Well, eating dark chocolate. That comes to mind, I gotta tell you. Okay, taking a hot bath with Epsom salts and listening to healing music. I love that. Spending quality time with my family, my kids, or my husband, heart to heart. Also spending time. Here we go. This is what I love to do. I do love to move. So, it's nourishing for me to take a walk or a bike ride every day on so many levels, emotionally, mentally. So, but I also like to slow down. And I'm really into this stuff, right? So connecting to my body through stretching, also connecting to my body through releasing tension through fascia release. And those are the top 5 things. I think I said 5. Did I?
Yes. Yep. Okay. No, those are great. Thank you. And if you don't know what some of those things are, don't worry. Resources page on embracinglayers.com. You can learn more about how Cari does that. So don't worry about that. Okay. All right. Yeah. And 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
So 5 words on how I want to feel. Oh, the next 6 months. So I would say, full of love and compassion. And I would say empowered, and that's empowering to empower others.
Yeah.
I would say being present, committing to being present one day at a time.
Yeah.
Mindful comes to mind. Keeping that commitment.
Yeah.
And growing, because I'm going to be growing. Right. Absolutely. So I just had to put that in there.
Absolutely.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, it is. And so important. I love that growing piece. We're always growing. We're always learning, leaving room for that and making space for that is so important. And it helps us to show up as our best current present selves and for ourselves and for other people. So much power in that. All right, Cari, tell us all the ways that we can find you, support you, have access to your resources. And again, this will be on our website, embracinglayers.com, on the resources page when this episode drops. But I want to give you an opportunity to share while we're sitting here talking.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. And I just love what you're doing. I just have to say, this is great. And I love your podcast. And so you can find me at movementcraft.com, the word movement and the word craft. .com, and you can reach out to me directly there. We'll keep it simple. Just go to the website.
Okay. Sounds great. And what about your podcast?
Yes, thank you. So, oh my goodness, it's better than a pill. And that was word. Thank you. And so that is a really big part of me. I'm just so passionate about getting information out to the world on ways that we can help our bodies naturally and holistically and in all aspects, because, a lot of times we need more than mainstream medical. Not that that there's not things that serve us there, but in addition to it. And so it's just been my experience, and I'm really passionate about that because, just based on personal experience. So hop on the podcast and we're getting stuff out there, and it's evolving every day too, like,
Yeah, absolutely. I do. And it's got great information, great sources, great resources, because we need all the things. I think it's very important to remember that sometimes in Western medicine, it is real quick to give you a pill instead of resolve the issue or get in front of it. Let's get in front of these things so that they don't become a thing. So pairing that all together, then also realize there's times that you just need the help. Sometimes you need the medicine or the surgery or those things. But let's have a whole journey about what can we prevent? What can we get on top of? What can we be aware of? And do it in a healthy, encouraging a way because that affects all of our health. So thank you for that. So jump onto that. But Cari, thanks for your time today. I so appreciate what you do, how you show up in the world, how you're such great energy to what you provide for women and these opportunities, and men too. But what you provide for people and the way you can live in a healthy way that's honoring to you, the way you are so committed to who you are as a woman and how you show up in the world and how your values and all of the things you're passionate about frame that. Thank you so much for what you do and for being here with us today.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm so glad to be here.
Absolutely. All right, women, feel empowered. Go look at these resources. Take care of your whole body. You deserve that. And if you're doing it in pain, you don't have to. There's a better way. So those resources are available to you, but take good care of yourselves, value yourselves, and have a great week.